Hi and welcome to a Holocafé webinar series. My name is Sebastian and today I'm going to take you on a crash course through Warpdrive 3. In this webinar you will learn how to deploy tools and content across your facility, configure your rooms, create and use Chaperone presets, and control and oversee the game flow. For the purpose of this webinar, we're going to assume you already have installed the Warpdrive server, client, and rolled out your local Photon server. Ready? Then let's go. The library and other configuration tools are available from your Warpdrive server installation. The library lets you download and deploy game content as well as utilities such as SteamVR across your venue. New updates are visible as a cloud icon on the respective library item. In this case, we're seeing a new patch for Holo Arena, so let's download that to our server. On the panel to the right, you're seeing a list of all your devices that run Warpdrive. Those are the devices that you can deploy software to, but beware. A red circle indicates that the PC in question is currently offline and can't receive updates. Online clients that already have the selected title installed will show their current version number. If it's green, that means it's already running the latest version. Select the clients to which you want to roll out your newly downloaded version and click Deploy. Warpdrive will use your local network to speed up the process, since you will only have to download the game once. Everything else is handled locally. Software that has not been patched to the latest version across your venue will show a download icon on the list. Outdated version numbers will show in red instead. In order to handle possible compatibility issues or undetected bugs, Warpdrive gives you the unique option to roll back installations to previous versions. That way you have full control over your software stack and won't run into software updates unprepared on a well-occupied day. With our content rolled out, let's create our rooms. Give your room a recognizable name and adjust the rest of the settings to your needs. Most settings are auto-filled from your initial installation presets, and unless you want to expressly make changes, you can leave them as they are. As an example for customizations, let's set the ambient music volume to 0 while the room is not in use. With our room created, we can now see 5 slots. Blue, yellow, magenta, and green are for the players, and black is for the room observer. The observer outputs a dynamic spectator view that you can output to TVs in your venue. It also outputs the audio signal for the 5.1 surround acoustics in your room. Last but not least, if you use the shareable feature, the observer will compile a highlight reel of each game session that your customers can take back home as a 30-second video. We'll cover this functionality in another webinar. On the left, you'll find your available PCs. Simply drag and drop your stations into the appropriate slot to assign them to your new room. If you open the room settings back up, you will see that your observer has been automatically assigned as room master and thus controls the multiplayer aspect of the room. After finalizing your configuration, Warpdrive will ask you to reload the config. What this does is to create a local configuration backup on each game client. Should your Warpdrive server PC crash in the middle of the day, these configs will help keeping all live sessions up and running uninterrupted, although you will lose direct control for the time that the server is down. If you are running a venue that is hosting both co-located games in the same room, as well as multiplayer games that require individual play spaces per user, Warpdrive now makes it possible for you to host both game types in the same space and helps you to drive your flexibility and occupancy that way. In the preset editor, simply create presets for the different Chaperone variants you want to have available. For instance, you can have a Chaperone that spans the outermost bounds of your room for co-located games such as the Holocafé titles. Or another Chaperone that splits the room into different quadrants for teleportation-enabled titles such as the Ubisoft Escape games. You will then be able to measure different Chaperones on each client and store them to one of the presets. That way you can simply tap the preset you want to switch to in the command center view and instantly swap Chaperones without having to reboot SteamVR on any device. Now that we're all set up, let's take a look at the command center view. This panel gives you an overview of all your rooms, what is being played and where the players are in each game. It is also the central command hub to control your game sessions. The command center is available on any device that you install Warpdrive to, and each instance is connected with one another. If you want to be able to control your venue from the reception, from within the rooms and also mobile Windows tablets, you can do all of that. In idle state, the room's observer will output either a high score table or a customizable playlist of images or videos. In order to start a game session, first open the room. The observer will now show the spectator view of what's going on in-game. At this stage, all clients are in the lobby. This is an onboarding hub that is aimed specifically at first-timers, so they can get warmed up and understand interaction in VR without being under pressure by challenges and sensory overload. Warpdrive will show you the age rating of the currently running game and lets you choose the localization, which will affect text and voiceover in the game. A pre-game timer lets you control how much time you're spending during the onboarding process to make sure that you do not run into delays in your scheduling. Below, you can set how many games will be played in this session. To make use of this, let's first understand the session flow. After spending a brief warm-up time in the lobby, players will enter the chosen game. Once that game is over, they will be returned straight to the lobby before entering the next game in their booking. If you have the check mark on the right-hand side set, the lobby will become inactive after the last game in the current session and will tell customers to turn down their headsets. If all your staff is busy and can't be with the customers in the moment the session is over, they will still know what to do. The lobby itself provides a sandbox-like experience and detects when players made their first successful interactions within the game world. This is signalized by a check mark on the respective player, which you can also set manually. Only checked players will be entering the game. This is important because the game difficulty responds dynamically to the amount of players. If you have idle clients sitting in the game, they could make some of the challenges unsolvable. With the clients ticked, select the game you want to launch. You can also choose to launch a countdown, which players will see in the lobby and can continue to warm up before the game automatically starts. You can use this functionality to shorten the time that your staff has to stay with the players for onboarding. Once all checkmarks are set, you can essentially launch the countdown and leave the players. They will now have no problem pursuing the game on their own. While the game is running, you can observe the time left and the current progress. Warpdrive monitors the device health in the background. Should a user accidentally pull out a cable, turn off a controller, or lose Wi-Fi connection, Warpdrive will give a noticeable warning so you can send help to the customer immediately. Once Warpdrive detects that the issue has been resolved, it will revert to a yellow alert that your staff can delete by tapping on it to confirm the problem has been solved. Once a group is finished with their game, the room will flash green to make operators aware. You can now either queue up the next game or get the group off for offboarding. For offboarding, close the room. Warpdrive will now show a warning that the devices in this room have not been disinfected yet. Once done, an operator will have to confirm so that the room shows as ready. This is particularly helpful if you run a big venue with plenty of staff. This way, everybody in your staff will know each room's status and will never have to ask around before sending the next group in. While most of the game flow is automated, you can take more direct control of the sessions through the game actions. You can trigger room-wide actions or actions that affect only individual players. What you have available here depends on the presently running game. As an example, you can access and modify the playlist of minigames in Fun Factory. To conclude today's webinar, let's take a look at the client settings. Warpdrive shows the device status of each player in real time, just like you would know it from SteamVR. Clicking on a client takes you to the client details that expose more information, such as the battery charge of the controllers, IPD settings, and how many base stations the device currently sees. Here, you can also send the individual client into a game. Imagine you have a player that is late for booking, then you can have them join on the fly. The client settings give you a couple of maintenance options, such as restarting Warpdrive, SteamVR, or the entire client PC. Further below, you can also tweak the Chaperone. Select whether you want to modify the offset towards other players, only the Chaperone, or both, and using the buttons below, fine-tune the alignment on every axis and angle. Quick Room Setup also lets you do a fast calibration by just placing controllers on the floor in opposite corners. This panel also lets you save your modifications to any preset you've previously created. And that about rounds up the basic usage of Warpdrive. If you're interested in deep dive webinars for more specific features, please let us know in the comments.